And joining us now to talk about the economy and much more is the U.S. Senate candidate for the seat presently being held by Chuck Schumer in New York State, Republican Joe Pinion. Joe, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming down to Dallas.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you here. You think you can beat Chuck Schumer, the
Well,
majority leader of the United States Senate?
I know I can. And I think that it's just very clear to me that the 19 million and shrinking that call New York State home deserve a chance to have a real choice. And when you look at life in general, whether you're talking about politics or any other area, your greatest strengths become your greatest weaknesses. And Chuck Schumer, now his name precedes him. People all across this country, whether you're a soccer mom here in Texas or whether you're a native New Yorker, know that what Chuck Schumer does in the name of New Yorkers, it impacts every single one of us. And what most people believe is that he is not leading this nation in the right direction. So we can build an uncommon coalition, and we know with the help of people all around this country, we can get the resources we need to get the message to the ears of the New York people.
The most important phrase in that statement, which you just made, at least to me, is 19 million people in New York and shrinking.
Absolutely. And I think you look at that reality that there are people who are fleeing, voting with their feet, that they are tired of a state where opportunity no longer lives there. The people in law enforcement who have seen 2021 become the deadliest year to wear a badge in this country because the three most dangerous words ever uttered in modern politics: defund the police. And now we've seen in 2022 already a 43% increase in assaults on law enforcement. My hometown of Yonkers just had a police officer shot this week, now bringing a total to over 100 members of law enforcement shot. So issue by issue, whether you're talking about the safety and security of law enforcement to keep our community safe, whether we talk about an open sesame policy on the southern border, where we have Chinese cartels that have teamed up with Mexican cartels to flood Main Street, USA with enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child that calls this nation home. Fentanyl now the leading killer for all people aged 18 to 45 in this nation. That doesn't care about your politics, doesn't care about your color or your creed. It is bringing death to the doorsteps of urban and suburban mothers alike. It's because of policies that have been rubber stamped by the Senate Majority Leader for this nation, the senior senator for New York State, Senator Charles Ellis Schumer.
Valid points, all that you make right now. Nevertheless, there is that hard, cold reality that the greatest advantage that anybody has in running for political office in this country is the advantage of incumbency.
Absolutely.
And Chuck Schumer has been, he is a Washington fixture now. He's been, what, a congressman and a senator for over 40 years?
Yeah, 42 years walking through the halls of Congress, 24 of which he was a United States Senator, spent 6 years before that in the New York State Legislature, so 48 years in government, and he says he needs 6 more years to deliver the bold change that New Yorkers deserve and all Americans seek. I think I know a con when I hear one. Certainly I think most Americans would agree that if you're caring about the 12 million children living in poverty, Charles Schumer has done very little to address that issue. If you care about the fact that we have, again, a rising crisis of ineffective policy that has led to the middle class becoming an endangered species, the cost of the rotisserie chicken has gone through the roof because of the inflation. We printed $6 trillion of money we did not have to deal with a virus of foreign origin for which we have yet to hold that nation of origin in China accountable. This is the lunacy that has led us to the point that we are at today, where the average American finds themselves on the financial brink. Now we see here at home, we are paying at the pump and in the poultry aisle. Abroad in Ukraine, they are paying for it with their lives. But it all starts with leadership that fails to lead because we decided that we were going to place our head in the sands at a moment when America could at least actually afford it.
Yeah, I said in an interview just the other day that party affiliation does not mean a lot when you're paying 70 or 80 bucks for fill up your gas tank every year. Nevertheless, you're a black Republican running in an overwhelmingly Democratic state. The odds are just really, really tough. What are the polls? Do you have internal polling?
Well, look, I think not even my internal polling. Don't take my word for it. Take the public data. Siena Public Polling, Siena College, they have been tracking the polling for Senator Schumer. He was at 37% with independents in April of last year. He is now hovering around 33% with independents today. That is 12 to 13 months of consistent polling saying that the independent voters of New York State do not believe he is doing a very good job. Now, overall, with the New York electorate, according to those same Siena College public polling, over the last 3 months, he is consistently below 50%, averaging around 46, 47%. You add in the fact that now someone who was a beloved figure on the left in Joe Biden in New York is now polling below 50%. The climate for change is upon us. We just have to go out there and do the work of building what I call an uncommon coalition and tell people that whether you're a left of Bernie Sanders, whether you're a right of Donald Trump, everything that Chuck Schumer touches has led to pain and suffering for the hardworking Americans that call this nation home. And so for us, the thesis for our campaign is clear. If you are unhappy with the world as it is today, you cannot vote for the architect who built it. There is no greater architect in American political life today than Chuck Schumer. He is the one that is responsible for passing the Biden agenda. He is the reason why President Trump was prevented from keeping America great. And if you believe in those things, then help us in this cause to make sure that we can send Chuck Schumer to the retirement home of politics once and for all.
Voters generally blame the President of the United States for the economy, regardless of how responsible he is. Right. How much responsibility does Chuck Schumer bear for the poor economy?
Well, let's be very clear. Let's start with the mess that we see abroad in Ukraine and work our way back home. You had individuals like Senator Ted Cruz here in Texas who were begging, urging the Senate to do what was necessary, to have the harsh preemptive financial sanctions against Vladimir Putin and Russia, to let it be known quite clearly that it would be a harsh financial price to pay for them continuing down this line of insanity. Instead, people like Chuck Schumer prevented those preemptive sanctions from being levied. We decided we were going to play Russian roulette with the Russians as if they didn't invent the game, and now we see the results. We have Ukraine, which is effectively the Iowa of Europe. It's the 4th largest producer of wheat on the planet, 5th largest producer of corn on the planet, and so the food costs around the globe are going up. The fertilizer costs around the globe are going up. We pay for that every single day here at home. These are the policies that in many ways have been paved by Chuck Schumer. And so we just have to be able to help the American voters, to help the voters specifically in New York connect the dots from the pain they experience every single day to the man who is responsible for pretending that he is not the leading cause.
Well, he's also been spearheading the Biden domestic policy agenda, which involves vast expenditures of money, which is helping to contribute to the vast inflation that we're seeing right now.
Absolutely.
Any chance for debates?
Well, look, we plan on asking all the networks, including this one, to invite both of us to sit there and have real conversations. Let's talk about the fact that 1 out of 3 black children that live in New York State are living in poverty. Let's talk about the fact that 60% of the children that attend public schools in New York State are not reading at a proficient level. That is not left versus right. It's just wrong. By any way you want to slice it, it's child abuse all across this country. In Baltimore, 70% of the students that are attending Baltimore City high schools read at an elementary school level. Right. Democrats want to talk about Jim Crow. We've got honest-to-God Jim Crow in our school system that is sanctioned and paid for by our American tax dollars, and the people who say they care about these communities are doing very little about it.
We're seeing such a divided media right now that message, what you just described, never is heard on some of the left-leaning networks. They just banish that kind of information. Are they banishing you and that message?
Well, look, let's be very clear. You have to talk about the politics and then the people. We are here to prioritize the people. If people choose to continue to prioritize the politics, that is on them. But our path here is quite clear, to take our message to the people, to let them know that I don't care what your political sensibilities may be, our shared responsibility as Americans is to make sure that we have an America that works for we the people again. That starts by empowering the people that call this nation home, and we can do that without being able to have people call the PTA mom who's concerned a terrorist.
I want to ask you as well about potential problems with your own party, the Republican Party, which has a tradition, I would say, well, an obvious tradition of being made up of mostly people who look like me, old white guys. Right. They need more diversity in that party. And I'm always appalled at how the one black male Republican member of the United States Senate, Tim Scott, who I would argue is as eloquent as any other member of the United States Senate, does not maintain a leadership position in the Republican Party. What's wrong with this party?
Well, look, I think that there are lots of things that are wrong with our politics today. I think that those problems extend to both parties in some ways equally. How they're manifest is quite different. I wouldn't expect to see a Republican Party replete with African-American leadership when we have traditionally less than 8% of African-Americans overall voting for Republicans in elections. People elect what they see every single day, and right now Republicans aren't seeing many black people in the county committee meetings with them or on the ballot when they go vote. And so I think across the issue, I think it's just about saying we need to have a Republican Party and an American political tapestry that recognizes the strengths and also the concerns of all people of all creeds. At the end of the day, I'm running because I feel these issues on a personal level.
Joe, thanks very much. I have a feeling that this is a face that you're going to be seeing lots of in the coming months. He is the candidate for the Senate seat presently held by Chuck Schumer, Joe Pinion. Good luck to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. God bless, and talk soon.
We'll take a short break. Back with more of Centerpoint after this.